Hello, Mooncrafters. Welcome. This is Craft a Moon. Today we're going to be talking about something big, something that's coming up in astrology, the solar eclipse in Aries on March 29th of 2025. This isn't just any eclipse. It's packing some real energy. And I want to break down what it means for you, for the world, and how we can all ride this wave. In this video, we'll get into why this eclipse in Aries is such a major event. We'll look at the different energies at play, the push and pull it shows, and even peek ahead to what's coming in June. Because believe me, this eclipse is just the start of a bigger story. We're also going to talk about how to use this time to really get clear on what you want and find your center when things feel turned up. Think of this as your guide to get ready for this strong astrological moment. If you're new here, a warm welcome. I'm glad you're here to explore astrology with us. And if you're a regular, thanks for being back. Your support means a lot. If you find this video and any of the videos on my channel helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about astrology and growing yourself, please subscribe. It helps this channel grow, and it lets me know you're into this kind of thing. Also, if you're curious about your own astrology, the links below are for you. You'll find some things there to help you on your own journey. You can get a one-on-one reading with me by clicking through to my website. Okay, let's jump into this solar eclipse in Aries and see what it's all about. So let's get right into this eclipse. First of all, if eclipses are new to you, a solar eclipse happens when the moon moves right between the sun and earth, and it blocks the sun's light. In astrology, a solar eclipse is like a supercharged new moon. New moons are times for new starts, for setting goals, for planting seeds, for what you want to grow. But when you add the eclipse energy, it's like turning up the power on all of that. It really makes those new moon feelings stronger, making it a super strong time for new starts and big changes. Now, this solar eclipse in Aries is the first of the sign in the Zodiac. It's a fire sign, known for energy, drive, and taking the lead. It's also said to be where the sun is at its best. Think of it like the sun's favorite place. It's where the sun feels great and can really shine. Being in Aries makes the sun extra strong, extra powerful. So right away, we know this eclipse is going to be full of energy and bold. To see just how energized, think about what the sun's doing lately in astrology. Just before this eclipse, the sun went through something called a cazimi with Mercury and Venus while in Aries. Cazimi is an old astrology word that means a planet is super close to the heart of the sun. It's like a cosmic power boost. Imagine Mercury, the planet of talk and ideas, and Venus, the planet of love and what we care about, both getting supercharged by the sun right before this eclipse. It builds up a lot of solar power focused through Aries, which is all about action and getting going. We're talking about the sun being in the early part of Aries too, really close to its point of strength, making it even more powerful. If you were to look at when the eclipse starts, For people in California, it would be very early in the morning on March 29th. And even though we won't see it here, that timing tells us astrologically about when the energy is strongest. The narrative tells us the exact time, Pacific time, is 3:58 a.m., showing us how precise this event is in the cosmos, even if we can't see it directly everywhere. So when the moon joins the sun for this solar eclipse, it's like the sun is already powered up and ready to go. Aries is what we call a cardinal sign, which means it's all about starting action and getting things moving. And fire signs, well, they're all about energy, passion, and drive. Put it all together, and you have a solar eclipse in Aries that's loaded with potential, pushing us forward, urging us to take charge and start new chapters. This new moon eclipse brings a real feeling of new life. It's like a cosmic reset button, making us think about where we want to put our energy and what we want to start over in our lives. This is a time for brave moves, for stepping up to lead, and for really going after what you want with passion and courage. These are classic Aries vibes. Now, we need to be honest here. While this Aries energy is strong and can be great for new starts, it's not all easy. The world right now feels heavy, right? Split. Some people feel hopeful, maybe even excited about what's ahead, while others are really afraid and worried. This eclipse isn't going to magically make those splits or fears go away. In fact, it might even make them stronger. Think of the innocent victim archetype here. Many people feel stuck in the middle of world events, feeling helpless and weak as these changes happen. This eclipse energy can bring those feelings to the surface. The narrative highlights this tension, noting that while some see the world as positive, many are petrified and terrified, showing this archetype in action. This eclipse is strong, yes, but strong in a world that is complex. It's happening in a world that is already feeling so much pressure, a lot of back and forth. So as we use this Aries energy for ourselves, we also need to think about the bigger picture, the world around us, and how these energies are playing out on a larger scale. It's not just about personal new starts. It's about how we start in a world that's changing fast. One really interesting thing about this eclipse is that it's what's called an out of sign eclipse. What does that mean? Well, the sun and moon are in Aries, right? But the north node of the moon, which is the important part of the eclipse, it's where the intersection point between the Earth and the sun happens for the moon. That point, the north node of the moon, is still in Pisces. Now think about Aries and Pisces in the Zodiac. In the Zodiac, they're right next to each other, but in terms of elements, they are very different. Aries is fire. Pisces, water. Fire and water, they don't always mix easily. This out of sign eclipse shows a split, a tension between these two elements, being fire and water, between being bold and being sensitive, between action and feeling. The North Node, by the way, in astrology, points to a general direction, a theme that's important over time, especially during eclipses. The narrative points out this elemental polarization as a key to understanding this eclipse. This elemental split is a big theme here, and it gets even more interesting when you add Saturn. Saturn, the planet of rules, duty, and sometimes limits, is in Pisces, near the North Node. Saturn is the slowest of the old planets. So on one side, you have the Sun and Moon in Aries, showing fast, starting energy. And on the other side, you have Saturn, the slowest planet in Pisces, near the North Node, showing more steady grounding, and maybe even limiting energy. It's like astrology is showing us extremes, fast and slow, fire and water, action and restraint. Think of the shadow archetype here. This split can show how the hidden stresses and fights that are growing under the surface, both in ourselves and in the world around us. We're seeing the fastest moving celestial body, the moon, joining the sun, the heart of our solar system, in the fiery sign of Aries, while at the same time the slowest moving of the traditional planet Saturn is hanging back in the watery depths of Pisces. We call this polarization extreme. Noting extremes from the fastest planet conjoining the sun, the slowest planet conjoining the North Node, highlights the shadow's presence in these extremes. This split between Aries and Pisces, between fire and water, is really key. Even though Aries and Pisces are right next to each other on the zodiac wheel, they show very different kinds of things. Aries is the start, the first sign. Pisces is often seen as the end, the last sign, showing completion and endings. So even being close, they show a kind of split. It's like astrology is asking us to bring these opposites together to find a balance between start and end, action and letting go. The narrative we're weaving emphasizes that even though signs are right next to each other on the wheel, they're opposed if you were to create a linear pathway with Aries at the beginning and Pisces at the end, reinforcing this polarity we're talking about. And this split is made stronger by Venus and Mercury. Just before this eclipse, both Venus and Mercury were moving backwards, which we call a retrograde in astrology. And it often means a shift in energy, a turning inward, a review. The fact that Venus and Mercury, two very personal planets, were both moving backwards just before this forward moving Aries eclipse suggests that while there's a push forward, there is a pull backwards. Moving ahead is often mixed with looking back, checking things out, and rethinking. This points to the recent cazimi of Venus and Mercury, two of the most deeply personal planets, as they are in retrograde, moving back into Pisces, is indicating the reversals that are taking place. Linking personal planets retrograde to this larger theme of reversal. So while the sun and moon in Aries are pushing us to new starts, Venus and Mercury moving backwards are pulling us back in to think about our past, to think and reconsider our values and our communication. And then you have Saturn and Pisces trying to steady things, bring a sense of karma or what we need to learn, while the Aries energy is pulling in a cardinal fiery way. It's a lively, complex picture, not just a simple push in one direction. Adding another layer to this complex picture is Mars. Mars, the planet of action and drive, is in Cancer. Mars is the ruler of Aries. Now, Cancer is known where Mars is weak. In astrology, a planet in its weak spot is in a sign where it's not at its best, where its energy is somewhat lessened or tested. Mars in Cancer can be like trying to start a fire with damp wood. It's not impossible, but it's harder. Mars in Cancer can make it harder to act directly, to be bold in the usual Mars way. Think of the wounded healer archetype. Mars in its weak spot in Cancer can show our hurt drive, our difficulty taking action, maybe because of feelings or past injuries. The narrative we're weaving here mentions that Mars in Cancer, the fall of Mars, the place where Mars is at its lowest and the least able to function and operate, directly connecting Mars's weakness to the wounded healer. Mars in Cancer has just started moving forward again, meaning it's no longer retrograde, but it's still in Cancer, still in that weaker place. And it's forming a trine to Saturn in Pisces. A trine is usually seen as a smooth aspect, an easy flow of energy. But when you have the two bad planets, Mars and Saturn, forming a trine in water signs, it's interesting. In older astrology, Mars and Saturn are often called malefic because their energies can be tough, limiting, or challenging. A trine is like Jupiter, which is about growth and expansion. So we have an expansion of malefic forces playing out through the water element. The narrative that we're talking about here, that we're weaving here today, we know we have two malefic planets, Mars and Saturn, forming a trine relationship in the water sign. So we see the expansion of malefic forces echoing this point. This Mars-Saturn trine is in Cancer and Pisces, and water signs are emotional, sensitive, connected to the inner world. And on a global scale, water can relate to the exchange, the interplay between countries, to hidden things, to the unseen forces that shape events. And here we see another split coming up. Change, Pisces, versus solidity, Cancer. Pisces is a mutable sign linked to change, flow, and being adaptable. Cancer is a cardinal sign, but it also has the quality of solidity, of home, of roots, of feeling secure. So we have the mutable sign in Pisces, the cardinal sign of Cancer, leading to the solidity that will be reached in Leo, as Mars is now moving towards Leo. And this Mars-Saturn link creates a tension between change and stability, flow and being grounded. Mars is a disruptive planet, and Saturn a stable planet. This is just another one of those polarizations, connecting the sign qualities to the larger theme. When we think about the water element on a world level, the diplomacy that countries have with each other that is underlying the talks, that is underneath those talks, the actions and the undercurrents. This can be linked to water. Some might link the talking itself to air signs, but the things that are underlying it, those undercurrents, that is the water element. And that's diplomacy at its core. It's about the hidden currents, the emotional, relational dynamics between nations. It's about the unspoken agreements, the secret plans, the emotional atmosphere between countries. It's the hidden currents that drive the talk, the underlying reasons across countries that lead to either conflict or peace. These are water element themes. When we think of the world stage, we think of what we think of as water is diplomacy underneath that communication, these undercurrents. This emphasizes the water element's role in hidden dynamics on a global scale and in our personal relationships. That's what emotions are about, water. Think about it. In our own life too, in personal relationships, family dynamics, friendships, what's beneath the words being said? What are the unspoken feelings? the hidden forces at work? What are the reasons that lead to good communication or bad communication between people? On a world level, what are the reasons that drive trade, business, and money exchange between groups? Tariffs on goods, trade deals, these are water element issues because they create the hidden reasons that help or hinder exchange. They shape the flow, the current of action. So we have Mars in solid, on his way to being in Cancer, on his way to being solid in Leo. Mars is a planet that can cause trouble in the sign where it's weak. And Saturn is in mutable Pisces, a planet that brings stability in a changeable sign. This split between Mars and Saturn in water signs is another layer of the complex energies at play with this eclipse. It's not a simple energy. It's full of tensions, splits, and hidden currents. Think of the tyrant archetype here. Saturn's steadying force may be becoming rigid and controlling, especially when working with a weaker Mars in Cancer, which might find it hard to push back against such control. The narrative directly links the oppositional nature of Mars in a solid, it disrupts the narrative directly links the oppositional nature of Mars, a disruptive planet, to Saturn, the stable planet, aligning with the tyrant's controlling energy, the tyrant archetype's controlling energy. We see more splits in other places in the chart too. Jupiter, the planet of growth and hope, is in Gemini, which is not considered a strong place for it. A planet in detriment is another kind of weaker spot where its energies are somewhat lessened or changed. Gemini is about details, close examination and facts, while Jupiter is about big views and broad ideas. So Jupiter in Gemini can be another kind of split between the big picture and the small details, between growth and detailed analysis. Again, we have Jupiter in detriment in Gemini, a place of detail and analysis. It's another polarization. Then we have Uranus in Taurus, very close to the star Algol. Uranus is a planet of sudden breakthroughs, new ideas and change. Taurus is an earth sign, solid, grounded, and often resistant to change. Uranus in Taurus can bring about sudden, surprising shifts to the earth element in our material world. Earthquakes, to our sense of stability and security, being near Algol, a star linked to strong and explosive energy, can make this Uranus even stronger. It's like pent-up energy bursting through the earth. A pyroclastic, powerful eruption. Not one of those slow, oozing eruptions of the Pahoehoe lava, one of these pyroclastic, explosive Mount St. Helens, blow the top off the mountain kinds of situations. Uranus, by its very nature, is against rules, and in Taurus, it's going against what's expected, disrupting the established order, bringing sudden and unexpected change to the material world. The narrative that we're weaving here talks about Uranus, the planet of sudden breakthroughs, in the solid sign of Taurus, directly connecting Uranus's disruptive energy to the rebel archetype and the explosive potential. So when you look at the whole picture, you see a lot of splits, a lot of extremes. At first glance, it might not be obvious, but when you start to see it, these tensions and splits become clear, showing a deep state of unrest. And all of this is really setting the stage for what is coming in June. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have a lot of these kinds of polarities. We see these things, we see these extremes. They represent a deep state of unsettlement. June is going to be a really important month. We're going to see a lot of planets changing signs, and we're going to see a very high number of squares forming between planets all through June. Squares in astrology are aspects of tension, challenge, and action. June is shaping up to be an extreme month in many ways, a time of even faster pace and stronger energies than we're seeing now in March. Coming up in June, we have this situation where just these extreme number of planets shifting signs and all these squares being formed between planets is foreshadowing the intensity of June in this eclipse. This solar eclipse in Aries at the end of March is like the starting point, setting up the tensions, planting the seeds for what's going to grow or maybe explode in June. It's like we're in the build-up phase now. The pressure is increasing, and June is when things are really going to come to a head. I'll be talking more about June in videos coming up, so stay tuned to this channel. Subscribe, and you'll be able to see those videos when I release them. But it's important to know that this eclipse is one step in a larger process, and June is just another very significant step. We can emphasize this, that right now, at the end of March, we're just setting the stage for that. June is a time when there's going to be an acceleration. It's going to be like a detonation, reinforcing the eclipse as a precursor to June's amplified energies. We have this moment of very divided energy in the zodiac right now, and this split will then feed into how planets change signs and form squares in June. It's an amazing way things unfold, with a lot happening at once, and these unfolding events are all contributing to the bigger picture of Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius is about change on a large scale level. When Pluto changes signs, it's a generational shift. It speaks about transformations and shifts in our structures and systems. This eclipse and the energies building up to June are all part of creating those transformative qualities that Pluto is bringing to Aquarius. The strong energy flowing through the charts right now, sparked by this solar eclipse, is becoming clearer and stronger as we move into the summer months, starting with June. The dynamics are staged such that they are feeding into the Plutonic ingress into Aquarius and establishing the transformative qualities that Pluto is bringing to Aquarius through the radical energy that is surging through the charts, linking the current eclipse to the larger long-term shift of Pluto and Aquarius. We can think of electrically, we can think of this like the difference between AC and DC, alternating current and direct current. We have all this alternating current going on right now because of these polarities. Lots of energy. This whole year, 2025, is looking to be a year of major shifts and changes. There's a lot happening, a lot of splits in the charts, on the planet level, in society, in our personal lives. And it's through this deep division that we have an opportunity, a chance to use the basic elemental qualities within ourselves. This year is just, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of change. A lot of polarization in the charts, in society, in our lives. And it's setting the stage for the shift to personal elemental balance. Instead of getting lost in the chaos, instead of being tricked by the dancing games of the planets, as some might say, we can choose to ground ourselves in the basic elemental qualities within us. Think of earth, water, fire, air. These are basic building blocks of life, and they are also the building blocks of astrology. The planets themselves express themselves through these elements, and we as humans also have these elements in our bodies, our minds, our feelings, and our choices. We can choose to be rooted and grounded in these basic elemental foundations, and that's not just our right, it's what we are as humans. It's in our unspoken nature of being human that we are fundamentally elemental. And so, if we focus on creating balance within ourselves, balance between earth and water, fire and air, air and water, fire and earth, if we focus on creating that balance within ourselves and within our families, our friends, our groups, that will have a ripple effect. Think of the trickster archetype here, the dancing tricks of the planets. The cosmic mess can feel overwhelming, but in that mess, there is a call to find our own inner balance, to not be fooled by the cosmic tricks, but to find our center. We can choose to engage with the elemental forces in a balanced way rather than being thrown around by the chaos. Rather than losing our center by being dazzled by the dancing shenanigans of the planets, to be settled into the basic elemental qualities, directly looking and bypassing the dancing tricks of the planets and connecting them to the influence that we see in our lives. This is the trickster's chaotic play. And we can see this contrasted with the need to find inner balance. This brings us to intention. At the time of a solar eclipse, intention is key. More than any action we might take when the eclipse happens, more than any decision we might make, focusing on our deepest intentions is what's most important. Focus your intention for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for the world. Take that time, the time before the eclipse, during the eclipse, and after the eclipse to really focus your intention. As individuals and as humans, it is a time at the time of the solar eclipse that we need to express deep intentionality more than anything else. More than any action that we can do at the moment of the eclipse is to focus our deepest intentions, directly highlighting the importance of intention setting during the eclipse. Setting and holding on to intention is very important during any solar eclipse, but particularly this one, where there is so much polar energy, more important than any specific action or choice we make at the time. It is the act of focusing our will, our desire, intention on what we want to create, to bring into being. This eclipse is a powerful time for planting seeds of intention, for guiding the flow of energy in a conscious way. Let's think back to the wounded healer archetype again. By setting intentions for healing, for balance, for ourselves and the world, we step into our own power to be agents of positive change within the chaos and division. Then we reiterate this, that more than doing anything, any action and any decision that we can make, it is intention. I can't say this enough. It is so fundamentally important for this eclipse. And it links all the way back to that wounded healer capacity for positive change, even amidst chaos. I know the wounded healer is often associated with Chiron because Chiron is the wounded healer, but Mars is also a healer, and Mars being in Cancer has this kind of energy. It's got a Chironic energy to it. So if there's one message I want you to take away from this, it's to really start and hold on to your own personal intention during this solar eclipse. Whatever your intention may be in any area of your life or for the world, take the time to make it clear, to feel it deeply, and to send it out into the universe. That's my message for today. I hope it speaks to you, and I hope it helps those of you taking the time to listen. And to help make this energy personal, in my next videos, I'll be going through each of the zodiac signs. So take a look for those in the same playlist, starting with Aries and moving through Pisces, looking at how this eclipse will show up for each rising sign. Each zodiac sign has its own element and quality, its own way of experiencing these astrological forces. We'll look into those qualities, and I'll offer some thoughts and questions for personal growth for each sign. The narrative here is that it's going to be expressing this message is going to be throughout the zodiac signs for the rising signs, starting with where the areas that we're moving through in Pisces and going through each of those. So make sure you subscribe and don't miss those zodiac sign readings. And in the comments below, I'd like to hear what your intentions are for this solar eclipse. What are you hoping to create? What seeds are you planting? Share your intentions in the comments. Let's make a collective intention field together. That's all for today, Mooncrafters. Thank you for joining me. Remember to like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe for more astrology info, and check out the resources below. Until next time, keep your eye on the sky and make a wish upon a star.